Alright, and welcome one and all to another episode of the Manga Panel. We have our usual guest, my boy Justice.
What's up?
We got Sek.
Yo, yo.
And we got your boy, Papa Jin, aka Not My Daddy.
Not anyone's dad.
Hey, I don't know that.
Now. Somebody. That's all I'm going to say. Somebody is out there. They be thinking of me when they go to sleep.
Anyway, though, we've been talking for like the past hour, and most of what they've been talking about is One Piece spoilers. So we've gotten a lot of the small talk out of the way already, right, fellas?
Yeah. For now.
Enough of it.
For now, I see you.
Oh, but here we have it. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. What a series to have read in this past 2 weeks.
That is a way of putting it, absolutely. That is what a series.
It is a series.
It is a series, most certainly.
Alright, who wants to give a synopsis and give away how they feel about it through how many details they put into that synopsis?
I'm gonna let Seth go first because he has the strongest feelings in my opinion.
We'll see.
I'm sorry. Oh, man. Okay, so Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. Or Biscuit Hammer. Hammett. Huh. Alright. So, this manga... Oh, boy. This manga is a story about a guy who is in love with a girl who wants to destroy the world, but is also on a team of people. You know what, Jen? You got this. I can't do this.
I think I know how Sek feels about this series.
Alright, so I'm going to try to give a synopsis, just a quick overview, nothing too, detailed. So, we have our main character, who seems to be a more loner type character, literally cuts himself off from pretty much all society. He wakes up one day to be told he is going to be a knight serving a princess, who happens to be living next door because anime. Now, Princess decides, hey,
now, hold
you're
up,
gonna
dude.
be...
I feel like we need to go over that, whole first 2 pages.
Look, this is just a synopsis. We're gonna break this down.
You didn't even say who told him he needed to be a knight, though. It's a freaking lizard.
Well, I mean, I wanted to leave something up, but yeah, he's right. It is a lizard, basically iguana-looking style, dude. And, and when I say style, it's literally the size of a lizard. This is not a human. This isn't a human lizard. This is an anthropomorph. It's just...
It is literally on his shoulder.
Talking to him. So, Princess lives next door to him. Princess is not your typical Princess Peach. She's a stone cold, I'm ready to whoop ass princess, literally. And she's like, yeah, I trust you and you're going to be my knight. And we're going to not only decide to save the planet, but I'm going to conquer the planet too. We'll go more into that. We'll go more into that. You'll understand why I put it that way. But he's like, wow, she's such an indomitable force. I want to sack that. So we're going ahead and going this. Where I'm in agreement. I am sold. So that is the synopsis without spoiling too much before we go into the story.
All right, that was a pretty good synopsis.
Better than yours.
Yeah, because you can tell how I feel about it.
Man, I'm sorry. I woke up and chose instigation today.
I was about to say, it chose violence.
It's okay. I know where he lives too.
Uh-oh.
Do you?
It won't be hard to find out if I don't.
Oh, that's fair.
So my first impressions, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be 100 with you. I was bored as fuck. I'm not gonna lie. That first at least 10 chapters feels like nothing really happens. That's my personal opinion. I understand if people disagree, and I do understand there were things happening, but it didn't feel like things are happening. And even as a person who enjoys slow burns, I brought up other ones like Kenichi, obviously. I was the one who brought that to the table, or How to Fight, or a bunch of other stories. I don't mind slow burns. I understand that some stories need a point to pick up. Like, they slowly world build, they slowly explain the characters, they slowly but surely, get you invested in the story. Boom, something happens, now we're getting a kickoff. But I don't personally ever feel like that happened. The first 10 chapters already bad enough, but I don't ever really feel like there's a point in the story for me where I was like, all right, I'm hyped, I'm ready, let's see where this goes. It just felt like things were happening, and there were a lot of things I would salvage from the story, but nothing that really got me pumped and ready to watch. Even when I get to the ending of the story, it doesn't feel until the last 15 chapters, give or take, that I was okay, this is getting kind of interesting. But it's over. So it doesn't matter at that point, in my opinion. If it's 65 and the last 15 chapters, give or take, obviously, it could be more, it could be less, but the last, give or take, 15 out of 65 chapters is where it finally starts having stakes, in my opinion, and stuff starts really coming together. That's when it's okay, but that's the end. I would have never made it here if I wasn't with the cast, in my opinion. So that's my first impressions and ending impressions, I guess I could say.
I had to inhale on that one. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I mean, I understand.
So, who's next?
He's like, I want to go last. He said, I want to go last.
No, I can go next with absolute. With
I
no
feel like
problem.
I feel like I'm gonna. Either me or Justice should go next to alternate opinions.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
So let's go with Justice. I feel like Justice should go next. That's my personal opinion, because I feel like he and I have those good, solid debates on both sides of the field. So I'm gonna let Justice go. I think should go next.
So I would agree that the beginning is very slow. I think that's the only thing I agree with you about on the whole series, though.
Okay, that's fair.
I feel like once all of the knights were together, I thought from there on the series was just great. Like, I loved every character. I loved going into every character's, like, motivations and backstory and what their wish was. That was another thing. Like, anyone who became a knight who was protecting the earth got a wish. And I loved seeing what they wished for, because it was always something, like... It was always something really close to their character and who they were. And, like... It always, like... I just loved the dynamic of the cast. I loved... A lot of the battles were cool. I love a lot of the meta stuff, like, why are we calling out our attack names? You have to call out your attack names, so it makes it a cool final attack.
I can appreciate that, actually.
Man, I mean, that was pretty interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was pretty funny to some extent.
Yeah, I just thought it was hilarious. It was badass at times. It made me feel feelings. I cried. I thought it was great. I loved it. I'm gonna reread.
All right, that's an interesting dynamic. I won't lie, because like it already feels like we've already hit the point of like, yeah, there's some points I agree, but we're both on like two totally sides of the football field here. Like after that first 10 chapters, it seems like this is the split point. Like either you're gonna like it or you're not type situation. But let's see what the other two think.
All right. Well, I guess that makes it my turn.
Sure does. You got it, bud.
Oh boy. All right. So I couldn't do the synopsis earlier because all of my feelings were starting to spill into my synopsis. So I just had to pass it to one of our more objective panelists. So I definitely agree. First 10 chapters at least slow. And painfully so in a way. But, I mean, you got to give it grace because there's world building and whatnot to be done. So for me, I think I got about 24 chapters in before it hit me like a sack of rocks that I was like, I don't like this. Like, and when I say that, I mean, like, the execution.
Man, that is really ironic.
Huh?
That's really ironic.
Yeah.
This series was your pick, and I think Justice and I both liked it more than you.
Ironically enough, man.
And I voted for it, so I don't feel much better. Trust me. Like, he picked it, and I voted for it. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go with this one. And, it is what it is.
But the execution is really what did this manga end for me. They were really cool concepts. Psychic powers, that was cool. Domain control, that was cool. The whole struggle between the princess and her knights and the mage, that was cool. There were a lot of cool concepts. But like on the contrast tip of what Justice said, I couldn't care about any of the characters. I didn't feel like they were taking themselves seriously. Like the whole thing with the world is going to be destroyed, it came off as a joke a lot of the times when I was reading it. Like, yeah, the world's going to be destroyed, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, and it just, like Jin said, it took way too long for me to feel like there were reasonable stakes. And this, for the record, is including certain dramatic events that take place, such as death. They didn't impact me the way that they probably ought to have.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't.
While you're pausing thought, I just wanted to go ahead and thank everybody who followed either, like, in the past second Z-Man or, like, a little bit before we went live, Polar Bear and Untitled Gaming. We really appreciate you guys.
We most certainly do.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are awesome, unlike my opinion of this story.
Not only they awesome, they give us a reason to keep coming back. I mean, really, I wouldn't finish the story without them.
Hold on. I think I have ragged enough on it. I do have plenty of specifics, but I'm gonna pass the torch on to Cynic here. I want to hear his opinion.
Man, this is probably, like, in the first 10 whole series that I've read. And I'm putting it as things that I've read, not things that I've just experienced and would call manga. Like, Spirit Circle is my favorite, and I think this might be my second favorite right now.
Holy hell.
Damn. That's interesting. I will definitely say that's an interesting point of view.
Like, I love the story. It felt like a lot of the cast could have been... It felt to me like a lot of the cast could have been in their own series of a different genre on their own. Like, you see all these tropes of all these characters that come together. Like, oh, there's two best friends who go to the same school. Or there's a boy and a girl who are neighbors and childhood friends that, like, they can see each other's window. They all felt like tropes that could have been in other series. And then we put them all here and we make them a group. And everybody just feels so genuine to me.
Oh, man.
So, if you don't mind me cutting in real quick, I think it's funny because that's something similar that I brought up to Sec before, but I said in a different way, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, a negative way. So, like, I felt like every character could have been a main character, but weren't given enough time to actually be a main character. And so it kind of just falls flat. Like, it feels like something that would have been good had it been explored and had enough time to been expanded upon. But it was more something that was kind of just introduced, whether intentional or no. And it just didn't go anywhere. And that kind of, like, hurt that part of it for me. Like, if it had been explored more, I probably would be on your side 100%. It's interesting to see these different dynamics come to the table, to see these characters who basically individually their own or together their own main characters, but it just wasn't explored enough for me to really, like, enjoy it, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I have to ask, when you say explored enough, because I feel like one of the things that it, like, relies on is us knowing some of these tropes, because a lot of these characters, before the events of the story, we don't get much. So we get the context of their wish, how they use their powers whenever there's a battle, and how they interact through those conflicts and what their motivations are. I feel like we get all of those from most everyone via their backstory or watching them fight. Like,
so
they're also not the main characters, so I don't... Like, yeah, this person could have been their own series in a detective manga? Sure, and probably, but, like, that's not what this story's about.
I mean, that's fair, but that's not more what I'm saying. I'm more saying along the lines of, like, each of these characters, if you want to put them in a story where it feels like they could all be the main character. I didn't get enough time to spend with them in their own way, getting to know them as characters to feel like they were the main character. So it kind of takes the gimmick away from me. It takes it away that they are their own tropes and they are their own almost main characters, but they never get explored enough to be main characters. Like, the one who could make golems, I don't remember his name, but he could make golems himself just like the mage could. But there was never a point where I really get to sit with him and go in a week in his life or go, like, through his motivations or anything like that. It was really just, like, it was being told to us sometimes, randomly, sporadically, but never really showed to us or anything like that. It was just, like, the most I got from him was, wow, it's really difficult making these golems and understanding how to make these golems really powerful. You let me get some help. Let me get a brain trust together. But it was never really more than that. Like, it was just a quick thing to remind you, yeah, he's important to the story, guys. He's not just a throwaway character. You know what I mean?
Why does he need more, though?
Well, see, it's not that he needs more. It's for the thing that was being shown. Like, we're arguing whether they could be their own main characters. That's what their feeling gives off that. But if that's the feeling that you want to give off, I feel like it wasn't explored to really, like, and this is going to become more important. I feel like there were things put on the table that were not explored enough, explained enough, or used enough for it to be useful. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally that I introduce a gun to the story, but no one ever uses the gun. What's the point of using the gun? Like, what is the point of the gun being introduced to the story? That's what I'm saying. Like, we didn't have to feel like they could be their own main characters, and we were never going to explore these characters.
I mean, like, I feel like that's a feeling that you have, though. Like, the author didn't go out of their way to say, hey, these are all main characters and everyone is equally important. He just gave us fully realized human beings who are characters and they're that interesting.
See, that's funny because that's where we're having the disconnect. Because I don't feel like they're fully realized. You do. But we do have the same feeling of they could be main characters. Like, that's something you said first, and I jumped off of. So it wasn't like I introduced that, and it's something I just feel. You felt that way to an extent, too. That's why I even brought it up. So it's like, if it was literally just me, I could concede, but there is some twinge of that in your opinion, too. So there has to be some level of that is an interpretation you're supposed to take away. You know what I mean? Like, if it was just me, that's just how I'm reading it. But if you also have some, even if it's a little bit, of that same feeling, you know what I mean? It couldn't just be me.
I mean, okay. I guess this also comes into the idea of, like, when you say main character, what did you mean? Because I
mean, like, if we used another story, like Naruto, Sasuke is a main character. He's not the main character. He's not the single main character, but we've explored his backstory. We know how his family died.
Okay.
We know why his motivation.
That's not what I meant when I said main character.
Okay, so what did you mean?
What I meant was, you could have taken... Okay, if I didn't explain this correctly, or if you did interpret it correctly, and I'm just repeating myself for no reason, I'm not sure. But I felt like a lot of these characters, in a different genre, if you just took them out and put them in something else, like no psychic powers, they would be very, very generic versions of, like, these genre tropes. Is that what we were both meaning? I mean, I wasn't trying to mean...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I wasn't saying that to mean, like, they are all protagonists in this story. It just felt like all of those characters were interesting enough that, like, in a different genre, this detective probably could have had his own super generic detective manga. If that makes sense.
I think this is one of those situations where we might just hit an impasse because we're going to just argue it from different points of view and we'll never breach the middle. Like, this isn't to say it's you or me personal's fault. It's just, I think that we're just interpreting it differently, and the interpretation is the problem, not the explanation.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a problem, but yeah, it's art.
I don't mean like argumentative problem. I mean it's the disconnect. It's the reason we're not getting to the same point. Does that make sense? Not like a literal problem. I'm not mad at you, but like,
yeah,
but like, it's not. That's where our disconnect is. That's all.
If you can't tell, I love this series. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I can tell you love it. So I would like to chime in if that's all right with you guys.
Yes, go ahead. I was done. Go ahead.
So I do find it interesting, Cynic, the point you were making about the characters. Ironically for me, like, aside from the main character and maybe the princess and Animus, I personally, like, let me just put it to you like this. What drew me to the manga after I'd actually started reading it was the fact that it was like, yeah, you guys are going to save the world. And Princess was like, yeah, nah, screw that. I'm going to destroy it. Because I want to own it. I was like, that's actually really cool and very different. Okay, I like this. Let's see where this goes. I'm not going to lie to you. I had no particular love or hate for the main character. He was just kind of there for me. Like, period. And that was how I felt about a lot of the characters. Like, when I meant it very seriously when I said, like, it did not feel like most of the characters took themselves seriously. Like, reading the manga, it almost felt like I was reading a play that was meant to be put on as a play, if that makes sense. Like, if you go and you watch a play, you know you're watching a play. You know what I'm saying?
Are you talking about it being meta?
No, I don't mind that. That actually gave it more points for me than not. I'm saying that in general, the characters, like in reading their reactions, I did not feel they were very genuine. I did not feel much conviction from them, save a few, instances. But it's like, I'm sorry, what?
No, you can finish your thought. I was going to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Okay. Save a few instances, but like just to me personally, it was never truly sold to me. The most interesting character was the princess for me. And that was just because it was like, oh, you're doing something different. That's cool. I want to see how this plays out. But even then, how it played out was kind of like, okay. All right. Whatever. That's how I felt personally.
I am a little surprised that you didn't care for at least two of the knights that I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
If you're
at the very least.
If you're thinking of the Dog Knight, I would have liked him if not for literally what happened.
What do you...
sorry, what?
What stopped you from liking him?
Oh, no. It's like I liked him, but then he died, and then it was just kind of like, okay. Because the main character was basically not supposed to be him. I'm not going to say that. But he got his martial prowess, and effectively was his block to his goal or whatever. Like, I found that interesting, and I found the character, that specific character, to be interesting. But he died like, was it 20 or before 20 chapters in?
Probably about 20 or less, yeah.
Okay. So, around 20 chapters, he had died, and it felt like his death was just kind of like, okay, I mean, I cared, but it did not impact me. Like, going back to Kenichi for a second, when I thought Apachai died, like, it hurt me for real. When the Dog Knight died, I was just kind of like, man, that kind of sucks. I liked him more than I like most of these people.
I mean, I could definitely piggyback off that and say the same thing. Like, I actually related to the character a little bit. Like, I'm an elder brother. I've had girls I like. I can relate to him to an extent, And then he died, and I was kind of like, that sucks. And I kept it pushing. Like, and I don't think I've ever really felt like that about a character dying in a story. At least not that I related to or liked. I mean, like you said, when there are characters in Kenichi I thought were dying, or in Fullmetal Alchemist or anything else, like when they died, I was like, I had to take a step back and breathe. But like he died, and I was like, okay, on to the next chapter, I guess. Like,
pretty much.
I mean, that's hurtful, but it is. It did not mean anything to me. Like, he did not make enough of an impact on me before that moment and it just felt like, even like the way his death happened, it just felt like it happened. It didn't really like. Now, granted, I will say, later on in the story, they do kind of try to be like, because of this timeline thing here, there was a reason he had a dream, and the dream was a kind of a premonition that had all this little tiny-whiny shit that explains why he jumped in front of him and saved him. Don't get me wrong, but it was also kind of like, when it happened, 40 chapters before the explanation, it was just kind of like, that sucks. He just jumped in front of this dude, one shot, dead. Damn.
And then he immediately beats the dead dude's brother, like the chapter after that.
I mean, you're right.
And man, are you guys scaling back your expectations, to recognize that this series is shorter than 100 chapters?
No, actually, you said, am I scaling it back? Yes, I am. I'm not saying that it needed to be longer. I'm just, in terms of reading it, I'm just literally telling you, like, I could not care but so much. And I didn't feel like the characters cared themselves. I can read it and be like, okay, I see that they're supposed to care. I can see that they're exhibiting that that's what the author is trying to get off. But like, I did not reading it. I didn't get absorbed into it or feel the conviction or
the stakes. Yeah,
it's like everything just kind of felt whatever. Here, I'll give you another example of a death, for example, that should have been like hurt. Like in any other, I'm not going to say in any other because I'm not going to say any other. But in most other circumstances, be it anime or whatever, I feel like I would care in this specific situation. The dude that I can't remember what his animal was, but it's the dude that basically made the wish for the girl, the guy with the pyrokinesis.
Lance.
Thank you, Lance. So he died, and I admit that I felt a little bit disappointed when he died, but then that was immediately negated by them in context being like, that was a pointless death. And I was just like, then why did you do it? Why the fuck did you do it?
Because he's not smart.
Because he's in love.
I get what you're saying.
It's not pointless. The why the Mantis says that it's pointless, and like they say it's pointless because he doesn't understand giving up his own life for someone else.
I mean, but I feel...
No, hold on. Are we talking about the same thing? Because the pointlessness of it was later brought up by the fact that one of them should have just been able to heal her. And
also
he didn't need to do that.
Okay, I think...
There was that, and then there was also the fact that literally immediately after, it was like, hey, his wish was to... I can't remember exactly the wording for it. Therefore, I'm saying that pre what I'm saying. Was basically she would be healed from any seriously mortal injury. And so and this could be the way I read it, but the way that I read it was literally like, so, and I mean, like, I understand, like, oh, in the heat of the moment, that's the girl that he likes, that he loves, da 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 da, so he did that. I get that. I understand that. There is a connection there. But for it to literally be like, yeah, he did that, but it was literally pointless. And then on top of that, for them to be like, yeah, it was pointless. That goes into the whole thing of like, it doesn't feel like they're even taking themselves seriously.
Plus, on top of that, what stopped him from wishing, if he had the breath, what stopped him from being able to wish for both of them to be healed from from the life or death wound?
Okay, I
feel like he wasn't dead.
Okay, so, like, one thing is, he didn't wish for her to be healed. Like, at least not in the translation that I read.
What did he wish for?
He wished to take on her injury. He didn't want her to feel any pain. He took on her injury. He didn't just heal her or himself.
What?
Yeah.
Then why was the hole in her stomach gone? She got stabbed in the stomach.
Because he took the injury for her.
But he had a hole in his stomach already. Where'd the hole in her stomach go?
That's
why I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being like realistic. He had a bigger hole in his body than she had in hers. Where was the hole going? Like, to be real, like, this is to be mean.
Killing him. That's what it... Essentially, that's what happened. He did the thing and it killed him.
But he was going to die anyway, wasn't he?
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not even going to... It's fine.
His goal was to be a hero, and that's what he did in his final breath.
I mean, that's fine. I think that's just one of those things where it's just, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to like it. No matter
also, like, for the people you think aren't taking this seriously, I want to know how many of them are out of high school.
I'm not even really sure if I understand what you mean by they're not taking it seriously. When someone dies, everyone is super distraught, except for the first time when the Dog Knight dies, because the main character doesn't have feelings yet. Because he's still chained up in his abuse from his grandpa. And it's only when he finds out that he has that guy's skills, that guy gave him his skills in order to, like, after saving him, that he, like, realized how much the weight of that guy's death was, like, weighing down on him. And he broke down.
I mean, I remember that. I do remember that happening. I don't know, like, okay, so let's take a step back for a second. Let's break down the story a little bit more before we continue, because I think we're all talking from a point of knowledge that the audience doesn't have to an extent. So let me just take it a step back. So, breaking this down a little bit more, we have 12 knights. All of them have their own animal, like the main character. The princess is not considered a knight. She does not have an animal. She has the person who's giving them all powers, Animus. Okay? Or Anima. She's Anima. The girl's Anima. Sorry.
Yeah. Latin pretty much Latin naming conventions.
Yeah. So Anima has a brother who is considered the evil mage. And he has a giant world-destructing hammer that's floating over the planet. And he is named Animus, and he creates golems to fight the 12 different knights that Anima created. Okay? And it turns out to basically be a game between gods. That's the easiest way to explain it without going through their whole backstory.
Yeah.
They're both god-level entities to an extent. They're both battling it out for the sake of Earth. Okay? So, with that out of the way, we know that the mage creates golems. And they're pretty much exactly what golems are. They're stone beings who fight against the knights. So it's like almost exactly what a golem is in traditional lore. They are rock people that can fight. So the reason I'm bringing this stuff up is because most of these rock people, these golems, have no feelings, have no anything, and the fights between them and the knights happen really, really fast. Like, it's not one of those things where it's like constant power-ups or anything. And I'm not saying I need that, but I'm just saying, like, these are quick battles. These are, like, quick skirmishes. We get in, we get out. And honestly, even the power scaling of it gets kind of crazy with the princess, because she literally goes from, like, I can destroy a car to I can destroy a mountain, and then by the end of the story, she can planet bust. And she skips city, continent, everything. She just goes straight to planet buster, which fucked me up. I'm not gonna lie, that threw me off. But I know the story is short, but it's still, they don't even escalate that great to me, because she literally does go from barely being able to destroy a mountain to literally just planet. Planet's gonna get ghosted. So, I don't know. Like, I think those things are kind of important so that we can kind of explain some of our opinions further. Because some of these deaths happen at the hands of, I think all of them happen at the hands of the golem. So,
yeah.
That does make a difference too. These faceless, nameless enemies basically slaughter these people. So, if anybody else has anything to say, that's just, I think those were key points in the story.
I agree.
Yeah, you're right. That should have been said sooner.
Yeah, and I apologize for that, because I did do the synopsis, but I wanted to give us a chance to kind of break it down first before we get into that stuff, but I do think that was important. So, I think if we go back, we take a step back and explain, in my opinion, the characters themselves have some level of interest. I'm not going to take that away from them. I do think that, like I said, the one who could create golems himself, he had some interest in me. I was interested in learning not only why his power was that, how he decided to make that his power, what significance that held, and I feel like a lot of that was just left on the table, personally. Like, it served its purpose in the grand scheme because he created his golems. It helped them fight. It gave him his own shtick. But it also was just kind of left on the table because it didn't really, at the end of the day, mean anything. Like, it didn't actually mean anything more. Like, it didn't make him it wasn't like the power that he had made him his own special entity. It wasn't like once all their powers were taken away by Anima that he got to keep his because he was special or something. Like, it was just something he could do. And, it was cool. He could do it, but it was just like he could do it, and then we're just gonna kind of gloss over that. And it kind of happens that way with a couple of characters, because, like we were mentioning with Lance and the girl he likes, one of them can use fire, the other one can use ice with their domain control. But then when he dies, she could just use the fire and the ice. There's no real like rhyme or reason. She could just do it because she can do it now. Like she learned how to do it.
What? I mean,
it's a psychic power. What? How else is she like? It's a psychic power. She learned how to use fire and also ice. How was she supposed to? Like, well, see, she even gave a mechanical like explanation for it. I don't know what more you want.
What I want is the explanation behind domain controls. But here's why I'm saying that. When we get first introduced to the main character, when we're first introduced to domain control, the lizard guy tells him how it works. He doesn't give him a way, like, he doesn't say, oh, use your imagination to figure out how you want to use your domain control. He's just like, here's domain control. The way your domain control works is you can create a stepping stone. Like, that's the way he explains it to him. And then he says, it's based off of your physical and mental stamina. So you do need to work out, you do need to get stronger, you need to practice with it so that you can do it better. But like at first, it seems like that's what it is. You're given a domain control ability. And then after the Dog Knight dies, then slowly but surely they kind of throw that away and say, no, you can kind of shape it. You can kind of choose what it is. And then it's like, okay, but then what's the limitations on that? Why can't they all just use each other's? Like, why is any one of them more important than the other if they could technically just, because psychic power, use each other's? Like, what stops?
They can.
Like, but they don't. They don't, though.
Animus says it later. Like, psychic powers are beyond reason. That's why when he's fighting in the end, he gets the invisible power. That's why his lizard becomes the dragon.
You're right. It does become the dragon, and that's what I think that's the problem. Too many things were left on the table because that's not an explanation. That is, let's be fair. Psychic powers happen. Like that's what the explanation is. It's like because a wizard, because it's magic, because it's psychic, you can just do whatever, whenever. Like that's I don't know. That doesn't sound like an explanation to me. If it was the explanation of listen, domain control. And this is how I would probably explain it. Domain control is your psychic power. And what you do with that power is based off of your imagination and your capability. Okay? Then we have at least something to base that off of. So when the main character only sees it as a stepping stool first, and then he sees other people do other things with it, and then you're like, oh, well then I didn't think to do it that way. Let me see if I can craft mine into a sphere. Or let me see if I can suck the heat out of it and make ice. If things like that were happening, it would be different. But it doesn't feel like that most of the time. It just feels like people use it a way and they need each other's help and there's different strength levels and there's no real rhyme or reason. It's just because it is what it is. Until you get to the spirit animals, then they kind of say, well, spirit mystic animals, they have more power because it's bestowed upon them by anima. But like taking them off the table, like just the standard soldiers using their ability the way they use it is just, it is what it is. More than it is, there's rhyme or reason to it. Because, I mean, realistically, others should have been able to use the main character's ability to basically slow each other down and speed each other up then, too. And there's no reason they don't do that.
I mean,
and it's not like all these people are stupid.
I feel like I hate to interrupt, but I'm going to. So I guess I'm a jerk. But anyway, I feel like one of the things that we're, like, ignoring is that like, I can't imagine using your psychic powers in ways that you're not used to. Like, they said it themselves that they took practice to do the expansions of their powers that they got, and that, like, as far as the Ice and Fire chick is concerned, they were the two most closely related powers. I'm not surprised she was able to do both.
And it's also
okay. What about the main character turning his domain control into a spear like the dog did?
He didn't turn it into a spear.
It was just the martial arts.
He did turn it into a spear once, but that could also be a part of like, you know, him inheriting that guy's ability and like inheriting his soul.
Maybe I thought that was just the martial arts he learned, and maybe I'm
That's
wrong.
fair.
I could be like being obtuse here and saying that. I will be forthcoming and say I could be obtuse by saying it was only his martial arts, because I don't know that it ever stated it was, but every time he said I'm using his power, he did the martial arts, so that's just how we're interpreted. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm willing to accept I'm wrong there, but like when he used it as a lance, it threw me all the way off. And I was like, okay, so what's the limitations on these abilities? How do you? And then like even when we say he got the invisibility, that wasn't on purpose. He didn't know he could do that. He just accidentally fell into it. It wasn't. And I'm not saying he needs to know he can do it. That's not the debate I'm having. It's that we as the readers don't have, like, even in a soft magic system, typically there are some like general rules so that you can't just be like, I woke up one day, I'm God. You know what I mean? I woke up one day, I'm God now. Because like, it's a soft magic system and nothing stops me from doing it. Okay. There's still, even in the soft magic system, something to keep you down. You know what I'm saying? Like Harry Potter is a soft magic system, but people don't just wake up one day and just like, I'm the chosen one because I'm the chosen one. Like, no, there's limitations, there's knowledge, there's experience that goes into being a mage still. You know what I mean?
Okay, and they had he had like almost a year before he did that. From the beginning of the story. And originally his using that power, from what I remember the explanation was, it was literally multiples of him using, it was him combining a bunch of his little bubbles into one big bubble to do all of those things that required precise control from each bubble that he practiced and didn't use any differently than his like power from the start. He just applied it differently.
Okay, hold on. Which there are like a couple of different abilities that he has. So like, which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the one where where he's surrounding himself in a bunch of his little domains to like speed himself up or slow people down.
Okay, yeah, though that took him a year to learn. I'm not gonna say I disagree with that. But I'm saying it's not just about the main character. Because I'm not saying main character hacks. I do want to be clear about that. This isn't about individually the main character doing something and it's like, oh, that's hacked, that's broken, or anything like that. I'm saying that there was no, in my opinion, across the board. Like, across the board, there was very little to no explanation behind a lot of the stuff that happens here. Even the timeline thing, like, where they were like, oh, time is not fluid. And that was their explanation. So anything that happens can happen because time is not a straight line. So when I bring something back up, just remember, time's not a straight line, so it just, go with it. Like, that's what it felt like a lot of the time, with a lot of their explanations.
That was just like, I don't know, I feel like we're harping on it. I feel like it's being harped on for not being a hard magic system at this point. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That's why I said even in a soft magic system, go ahead, Sek. What were you gonna say?
I was like, I am actually in agreement with Jin. Maybe not. I'm not quite as hung up on it, but like I've definitely said more than it's just the power system on this manga is kind of weird. Therefore, I don't like it.
I wasn't saying that to form your opinion. I was just talking about what we're talking about in this moment.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, he did preface it by saying that he was talking about the magic system, but I mean,
yeah, and I was just saying that I feel like it's only being harped on for being softer than you like. Which is fine. If you don't like soft magic systems, I'm not like here to tell you what to like. I just feel like that's all this is really coming down to.
Well, see, hold on. Let's talk, because I have another point I'm making about this. Like, it's not just the powers. It's everything feels like it's just left on the table and it's not explained very well. But go ahead and say.
I mean, really, that's pretty much where I'm coming from, though, is like, I said it, like, throughout me saying how I feel about it. I'm not saying that the concepts weren't good. Honestly, the art was good. And there were actually, like, cool parts, cool premises, cool ideas. I just, what it came down to for me was ultimately execution of those things. For me, personally, I just did, it was not done in such a way where I personally connected with it the way that Cynic and Justice have. Like, it just did not, like, I'm really curious about which part you cried at, Justice, like, to be honest, because, like, I'm just like, what part could you have, like, such strong feelings about, which I'm thinking maybe it was the fire god dying, but I could be completely wrong. Point is...
kind of that, but slightly after. But I can go into that after your point.
Okay. But the point is, for me, it's just like, and this could be because of the style of reader I am, or whatever, but I couldn't connect. But so much, and I mean, I don't know a bit, like, Cynic, honestly, you brought up a really, really good point by being like, I mean, how many of these main characters are in high school? Very, very good point. Honestly, like, I didn't consider that for some of it. But all of them are not high schoolers. Like, the horse, he is a middle-aged man.
Yeah, but I was meaning, like, how many of them aren't taking it seriously enough and are also, like, in high school or below? I would argue the horse guy took it the most serious. Like, besides our protagonist.
I mean, yes, but even then, it's like, for me, reading, his conviction didn't feel but so real. It felt like, I'm convicted with this because I have to be. You want to know what I felt like they were like their personal things that they were interested in? That's where I saw the conviction. Like, they have personal things. They have
I lost you.
Yeah, I lost you too, man.
Yeah, I'm not even getting Discord audio from him.
Well, I mean, I think I get what he's saying. Like, the brother of the dog knight, he ends up having a lot of conviction about battle. Like, that is his thing. So much so, he forgoes more than one fight with the bad guys to, try to get the best battle out of the situation. Like, that was more important to him than actually even saving the planet, protecting himself, protecting his quote-unquote friends, because to some extent they were friends. I'm not saying that they were best friends at the end. Family.
They were best friends at the end. You can't tell me.
At the end. At the end. But I'm saying, they weren't always.
Yeah. No
that, like, there. At always.
No argument there.
Sorry, I had to cough. But towards the end, yeah, they were basically families at that point. But they weren't always. They were at least minimum allies and friends. And he went and foregoed battle when it came to something important more than once in the story to, fight a good fight, in his opinion. That doesn't make him a bad character. That doesn't make him a less interesting character. But that's where his conviction was. That was more important than anything else, including saving the world, including his own life, including the life of other people. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of get where Sek was coming from with that. I'm not saying that every character is to the dollar that, but there is some, like, at least some level of that, even if you don't agree with the whole idea.
Wait, so, like, from my understanding, it's that the characters had personal convictions before world-saving convictions?
Than the stakes themselves. Than what the stakes are supposed to be. Because, I mean, at the end of the day...
Okay, I'm back, guys.
Okay, well, let me just fill you in on what I basically held out for you. So, I mentioned that the Dog Knight had a brother. And the brother, his conviction was more placed on his personal goal of fighting and fighting a good fight than the stakes of the world, which I feel like is where you were going. Not that that's...
Yeah, no, you actually kind of nailed it. I nailed it pretty much right on the head, like you were saying.
Shouldn't it be assumed that saving the planet you live on is always, like, there, and of course that we as readers should understand that and want to know more about the characters than that, oh, I want to save the world because I live here, because it's a generally good thing to do. Like, I would rather learn more about the character, because I already understand that, yeah, they want to save the world. Of course they do. They live there.
Like, imagine, just put yourself in their shoes. Imagine waking up to this spirit animal, just being like, hey, you're going to put your life on the line for this planet. You, this average person with no superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like,
let's take the superpowers part off.
Hold on.
They do get them.
I want him to finish his point, though.
Okay,
like,
I want to bring that point up. Continue. Just superpower part. They do give you superpowers, but outside of that, I agree. Continue.
You didn't have them yet.
They suck. And yeah, you're just a person waking up to this, just like what? Like, most of them don't even, like, really buy into it until, shit starts getting real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is fair, but this may be one of those things where when I read, when I watch, I go to it for different reasons. Because in a lot of ways, that is exactly how in a lot of ways, I would react exactly the same way. I would be very detached from the reality, especially seeing the, hammer in the sky and everything. I personally would probably be very detached from that fact. It would just be like, yep, all right, cool, just another day. But for me, when I'm reading a story, the point is to escape. The point is to get wrapped up in this other world that's going on. And exploring, I guess you could say exploring the characters the way that they did, I still just did not. I still just did not feel like. I just did not feel very.
You sound a little far away. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm gonna let Jen take it from here. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, like, from my point of view, and I do want to be clear, I do rank this, in my opinion, mid-tier. This is not a garbage story. I do want to be clear about that. I don't have this, like, this is a, like, garbage story, can't be salvaged. I don't see how anyone could like it type thing. This is not the debate I'm having so much as I feel like it is one of those, like, either you hate it or love it stories. Because, like, for me, hearing you guys' points, I can understand your points. I can understand why you enjoy it. And I don't think you shouldn't. That's not my point of contention. It's just for me. And like, looking at these characters, none of them really hold, like, and not even just the characters, like, all of it for me doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Like, when I look back at the past and I see that the Swordfish Knight has been alive for 500, the big 500, okay, 500 years, and the Biscuit Hammer has been in the sky for at least that long. And then he's been alive this whole time without becoming a knight. And then on top of that, 10 years before the story takes place, the Anima meets the princess, quote unquote, and bestows her with the power and, tells her what's going to happen in the next 10 years and all that stuff. Seeing that at least 500, if not 510 years plus on the table, what's the explanation on why he didn't just fuck up the planet before now? Like, what's the like? Why did she only just come in? And, like, you know what I'm saying? There's so much that isn't really given that much explanation. And you could say, oh, well, you could just interpret it yourself, but that's not necessarily something you like. I don't think it's fair to say that you have to interpret something yourself. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the ending and you interpret, well, will they ever see each other again? Or, something like that. When it's something abstract, okay, fine. But when you're talking about something very important, very serious about, like, how the story's progression is gonna go, I think I need a little bit more explanation, if that makes sense.
But they did explain that, though, didn't they?
That it was there for 500 plus years? I don't remember that. Like, if you can explain it, please do. But I don't understand how that makes sense.
That he lived 500 plus years? I cannot give you an answer to that. I assume that he's
basically,
like a supernatural
he meets the godlike person, and the godlike person bestows upon him omniscience and psychic power. People live a long time too. So between those two things, there's at least somewhat of an explanation.
As far as I understood it, he didn't destroy it because they didn't, like, come to that timeline. And it's not that, like, he couldn't go back further and destroy the Earth. It's like, each time they destroyed Earth, they were not in the same timeline anymore. Like, they didn't just...
I didn't get that. I didn't get that from the explanation, and maybe that's...
I feel like it's being interpreted here that they, like, keep going back further and further in the past and playing the game again. When they use the word
timeline is where I'm confused. So when you say they're in a different timeline, when I hear different timeline, I think literally different timeline where there are different people making different decisions versus they went back in time. So are you saying they go back in time, or are you saying they're in a different timeline?
Yeah,
and I do need that distinction.
I actually think both.
Well, see, that seems weird to me because they definitively explain that Anima and Animus are the descendants of not the princess, but the princess's sister, which seems to mean that there is a cohesive, congruent timeline. There are things that happen outside the timeline that affect it, but there is no, like, that when they were destroying the planet, they weren't going to a different timeline, it seemed like. Now, granted, I could be wrong. And I'm not going to say that I'm like definitive a source of information on this, but the fact that we can have this debate is more my problem than whether I'm right or wrong.
Fair enough. If you like, it sounds like you have a distaste for open time theory type stuff. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have a technical term for it here. Am I correct in my interpretation of your gripe?
No, my gripe is more like I feel like I needed more explanation for everything. That's it, and it's personal. It's just my opinion. I needed, and granted, I do want to be clear. I feel like there are stories who've done this type of like short story better. Now, granted, it's an anime, but I compared it to Fooly Cooly. I felt satisfied with Fooly Cooly. I enjoyed everything about it. Obviously, I wouldn't have minded more information about what was happening. But it felt more metatextual than it was about any of the battles or anything like that. I don't feel like this leans enough in either one direction for me to be like, okay, well, it's just metatextual. Take it with a grain of salt. Interpret it how you want to. More than it is about the battles and this being serious stakes. Because at the end of the day, Fooly Cooly was more about the metatextual and psychological stuff than it was literally about the world being destroyed. The world being destroyed was more metaphorical stuff than it was like literal. Now you could take it literally if you wanted to, but the world ending stuff didn't happen until literally the last episode, and even then it was kind of like it didn't really matter. It was more about the growing up as an adult and where all the adults around you are fucking childish and all this other stuff. So it's like, I don't know, it felt like that did metatextual, psychological stuff better in a short period of time than this does either or in a longer period of time.
Okay. On that...
You're better. You're a lot better. I do want to tell you.
Okay. On that time thing that you guys were talking about, argument of whether it was time or whatever, if y'all will entertain this for a second just so that we can get some sort of consensus on this. So I'm looking at the chapter now. Animus says, "This is the best. What's this? What is this feeling? Space, time is cracking apart. Incredible, traveling back into the past. So even something like this is possible. What's happening?" Animus says, "Very well, I will pulverize all these past Earths as many times as I want to, all the way back to the very beginning. I want to see the beginning of the universe. I want to know it." So, it seems pretty definitive that he is traveling back in time.
Yeah, but the Dog Knight died. So that means that they couldn't have been born. So how are they still destroying the Earth?
Which means they would have to be jumping time.
Doesn't that mean that he ultimately would be in an infinite loop then? He couldn't...
Obviously not. That's obviously not the way he's interpreting time travel in this story.
Well, see, hold on. They do show that people exist outside of... That's why I said things can affect things outside of time. And here's what I mean by that. So, the Dog Knight dying, remember that he also existed in the future. And here's what I mean by that. When the main character ends up running up those stairs and fighting him, that's the same dream that the Dog Knight had weeks, if not months before he died. So, like, he tells him about the dream. He says, like, I had a dream about you and fighting you and XYZ and you were incredibly powerful and all that stuff. That's the same dream that happened physically in the future. Like, this is an actual thing that happened. So he had to have existed to have the quote-unquote dream that he had to go back in time to save his life, to give him the power, to have the power to fight him in the future.
And I would ask, is that actually the Dog Knight, or is that his spirit that has gone back into the ether and meeting him in that dream? Because that's like a big thing about all the dreams. Like, near the end, when the main character has to like, I don't remember exactly what he had to do. He had to do something, but like
he had to grab all of these pieces of himself, including one that was in the future.
But the big thing was that like
he did grab a future piece of himself. No lie,
he sure did. But like, every time they go there to that dream place, like it's always their spirit. It's not ever their physical body.
But that's why I said there are things that affect things outside of time. And they did mention, I do want to be clear about this too, that Animus and Anima have explained that their bodies are barely alive. Like it's barely existing. Most of what they exist as is psychological energy, is telepathic energy. So knowing that they basically only exist as telepathic energy, basically, like obviously they have some physical form, they can touch people, they can kiss people, so on and so forth. The fact that they do have a physical form to some extent is kind of negated by the fact that they're mostly psionic energy. So them being able to exist without them being able to exist makes sense, since they are almost exclusively spirits, and spirits can affect things outside of time.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, does that make some semblance of sense?
Yeah,
I just thought it sounded like you had more to say than that.
No, that's it. That's pretty much it. That's what I'm saying, though. If we had more definitive explanations and not me just trying to come up with something to make it make sense, it would be easier. Because I feel like the fact that we even have to have these debates, and it is like, well, if it isn't a different timeline, then he shouldn't exist. Or, well, is it that he's a spirit and that spirits can affect the timeline this way? Or was it his emotions? Or, the fact that we even have to have this debate feels like there should have been more explanation. And it isn't just the powers. That's what I'm trying to be clear about. It's the timeline. It's the powers. It's the how did the princess eat more of Anima than Anima existed to have enough power to overpower Anima and Animus, but also when Anima took the powers away from her, she was just a normal person. You know what I mean? Like, there was just so many little things that were just brought up that in and of themselves are interesting and cool, but it's like there's nothing past the cool factor. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny anymore.
I suppose. If that's, like, I'm not going to tell you how to feel.
No, I mean, I agree. I don't think that you guys should change your whole opinions on the story because this is how I and Sex feel. To some extent, because I feel like Sex still has his own opinions and I still have my own opinions, but I do feel like there is just a level of, like, if I had gone into this story and I was probably brand new to anime and I had nothing else to compare it to and I was just like baby anime, I probably would have enjoyed this way more because I would not have been looking for more. But as like where I am in life, I scrutinize a little bit more. So the fact that it doesn't hold up to my scrutiny is the problem more than I'm saying that it's a bad story. Because I never said it was a bad story.
It sounds like we have just different approaches to media. I typically go into anything with basically zero expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And no assumptions. And I feel that has led me to enjoy a lot more things than when I did go in and like hone in on things. I'm like, oh, this thing did this better. Like, I don't care to do that anymore, and that's really helped me like enjoy a lot of things a lot more than I would have.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely fair. My only personal real my real personal gripe was just for me, I didn't connect. Like, I feel like I may have even been with you and Cynic, like, on the, like, man, this is amazing. If only it had connected with me for real. But it didn't. And, like...
But let me ask you this question. And this isn't an attack on you. This is me wanting to get to know you. What does it take to connect to you?
I don't have a definitive explanation for that, man. Like... I can literally give you examples of various different kinds of stories that have connected with me. I mean, I've watched Your Lie in April and cried like a baby. Okay. I watched Fruits Basket and cried like a baby. I've watched various, and again, coming from a mainly anime viewer standpoint, I've watched various different anime shows and I personally don't. I mean, like, I can connect with a lot of different things, but it's just, I don't know. I just did not feel much about it. I didn't feel anything towards it. So I don't know what it quote unquote takes to connect with me, because it's like, I'm a father, so you could connect with me on that point. I'm a guy, I like girls, so you could connect with me on that point. I mean, there are multiple things in there that had the potential of being the thing that sent me down the rabbit hole, but I never got, you know what I'm saying? I never got fully immersed into it. So I just did not really feel anything.
And if you don't mind me jumping in too, like, I have to agree with him. I feel like definitely if I had enjoyed the characters more, this would have been way more palatable. Like, I have read stories outside of battle anime, and the fact of the matter is, I brought this up to Sec before we had ever talked on this cast, where it's like, it's easy to kind of dismiss this and say, oh, well, you don't like this because it's not a battle anime. But there's battles in here, and there is a level of battle anime aspect to it. No, they don't have the jumps in power. No, they don't have the constant, like, I trained and learned from the battle. It's not, Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, stuff like that. But there is some level of battle anime to it. So it's not that. And even if I take that off the table and say it wasn't a battle anime, there are other stories I've liked. Like, my love story is literally that. It's his love story, and I connected to that story really well. I love the main characters. I felt embarrassment for them from time to time. I felt happiness and excitement for them from time to time. And I didn't feel that as much here. There was some level of feeling, but most of the time it was just like, damn, you guys are really depressed. That sucks. Like, more than anything else. That's, like, even when he, like, got over his trauma from his grandpa, I was like, oh, okay.
You're over it now? Okay.
I guess we're good now. Like, and it's not to be me. It could just be me, but as someone who's been through traumatic experiences before, having people die, having people bully me, having people, like, you know what I'm saying? Being a human being and going through my traumas, I just don't think it would have been, like, that easy to just get over being chained up for 10 whole years and being psychologically abused. I just couldn't feel it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It didn't do anything for me. Like, I was like, I guess it's over with then. I mean, okay. You know? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being mean. It's just that it didn't sink in. It didn't, like, grip me.
I do think that's, in my opinion, I think that's fair. But that is, again, my opinion.
Alright, well, I think we all know where we stand as far as our opinions on the series. Let's give our obligatory out of 10 rating for this one and vote on our next one.
I say we start with Justice this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd give it a 9.5.
Okay.
Like, I really enjoyed all the characters and how they interacted and became up, like, to become best friends, and it had the post, like, the 10-year time skip, how everybody's doing at the end thing that I just always love.
I will admit, that was nice.
I loved seeing how everybody ended up and shipped together, and I guess I'll also go ahead and say those two moments where I cried. So I cried when they're fighting the nine-eyed golem? The one that was like a knight.
Yeah, that's
the one that killed the fire guy. So when they fight him the second time, and everybody just shows up in their, like, fucking funeral attire.
Dude.
And the Ice Chick's just, like, walks up to Animus and is like, hey, bring that fucking golem. He's like, it's gonna be a minute. She's like, I'll wait. And after she got all that vindication and killed it, and she broke down and cried, I couldn't help it. Everyone was crying. I was crying.
I also cried there. I'm not gonna lie.
And then, like, just the whole last fight with Yuhi, the main character, and the princess. Just, like, the whole thing and all of the symbolism of it. And, like, the moment where he, like, doesn't think he's going to be able to beat her. Like, he can't get up as high as her because she's, like, flying. And then the whole team pushes him up together with their domain. and then he's like above her, just like they've been talking about how he's the only one who can fly higher than her. And then they all like help her become better. Like it was just the whole last stretch was so amazing.
Now I want to admit I did say earlier on those last 15 chapters were where I finally was like, oh hey, shit's getting pretty interesting. So I do want to be clear. I agree with that. Like I definitely pointed that out from the gate. Like those last 15 chapters is where it was like really starting to like hit to an extent. Like but I did want to jump in with that because I did agree with that.
Yeah, I thought like a lot of the symbolism he used was on point, and like I really loved it. I actually might give it a 10. I'm between a 9.5 and a 10.
Jesus, I've never heard that come out of your mouth. I'm being serious. I don't think I've ever heard you rate anything a 10, Justice.
I've got that makes my 8th 10.
Really? We're gonna have to talk later.
Yeah, I can give you the layup.
Okay.
Alright, Sex, since you want to volunteer people, what's good, my dude?
It's funny, I was going to say the same.
No, I was like, I'll just, because I know I'm going to give it the lowest rating.
Oh, guys, you know what time it is.
Oh, yeah, I'm already getting ready. 4:20. You already know. We're friendly on this podcast. So, honestly, after our talk today, because Jin already knows what my original rating for it was, I am actually going to give it a 4. No, 4.5. And for me, it's just literally like, there were a lot of cool concepts. I do agree that the last 15 chapters were literally the best part of that entire thing. Like, I could reread those last 15 chapters just for the sake of rereading them. No issues. I would never want to start this over from the beginning again, though, personally. And I feel like if I could have just, I don't know, been made to feel to care more, it would have a better rating for me. But for me, this was not an enjoyable read. It was a 4.5.
Respect.
Well then, Senate, since you want to volunteer people.
I'm giving this series a 10.
God.
I loved it. It is my second favorite behind the other series that this mangaka wrote that I've read. So I think I might start collecting these volumes pretty soon, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's little more I can say that Justice didn't already say. I laughed, I cried, I felt the growth of these characters as people and as friends. Seeing them change throughout the year, seeing our two protagonists, grow to love the Earth that in the beginning they despised enough to destroy.
Princess loved it from the get.
Okay, but she didn't know that. They didn't know how much they cared about where they are, or the people around them.
That I would agree with, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm giving the series a solid 10.
So I guess I'll meet y'all in the middle and say 6. So beyond a reasonable doubt, I have to agree. It seems like, from my point of view, everybody agrees. First 10, kind of a slog. Last 15, hype. You know what I'm saying? Much better. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, not my favorite stuff, but definitely way better than where we began. So I have to agree. That last 15, great. First 10, could have did without. Not my favorite stuff. And so really what it comes down to for me is I think that there is so much salvageable about this story that I can't give it a low rating. I can't say that it's a 4, or I almost can say it's a 5.5, but that's just not being fair. So I just say 6. It'll be easier to go with that. I just can't give it anything lower than a 5. Like there are things in here I would love to see in a story, but it just never hit. Nothing ever hit home for me. Like, again, when I bring up the slow burn, there was never a point where I was like, "Ooh, okay, I'm ready." Like we finally caught fire and it's ablaze now. There was never a point I felt like that. And even towards the end, that's where it happened. But it's like the story's over. This is the climax, so that's obviously have to happen. Like if it didn't happen now, it was never gonna happen type situation. So I can't say that's where it burns, because that's the end of the story. That's the climax. So because I never got to a point where I was like really hyped up, it just. I can't give it anything higher either. So, like, I think 6 is the fairest I can be without being too detractive, and I can't be too much on its side either. So, that's where I would settle in. 6, pretty squarely.
I would like to chime in and say I do think that it's great that we, on this one specifically, that we have such different and almost opposing opinions and views on it, because I think that made for a more interesting discussion.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. And I do want to appreciate everybody here, because I do feel like more often than not, we're not really like adversarial. Even when we disagree on something, we can't admit that this is an opinion-based situation, so we cannot come at each other's throat as if we know everything. So I do want to appreciate we don't have any snarks in here, we don't have any bastards in here. So
not any serious ones, at least.
Right. So yeah, I think that's important to bring up, that we are all, pretty open-minded and non-adversarial to one another.
All right, I just wanted to include this since I separate things for YouTube. This gives this series from the manga panel as an average as 7.5.
Okay. I don't think that's bad.
I also wanted to point out a little other math that I did. Like, everybody's talking about how great, like, the last 15 chapters are. That's like 25%, almost 25% of the story. It's like 23.07.
That's still an F, though.
If I did a page, that's 25% of excellence. I heard, not very goods. That's at least greats or better, is what I'm saying.
So my rating for me personally, that makes sense. 25% of the story out of 10, I gave it a 4.5. I was being even generous. Gave it,
I mean,
half.
I was considering that you only liked the end, but yeah, I guess you were then.
I like the concept as well. Let's not twist.
I'm just giving you shit, man. You're alright. But we did it. We got through a short series, and I found a new favorite manga on my list of favorite manga.
And I found one that I will never read again. Love you guys, I do. Again, I still find it vastly fascinating. But I definitely can say I'd never read this one again.
Alright, chat, if you're listening, now is the time to listen and interact, because we're about to vote on our next series. Everybody's got at least one submission with a max of 2. And we're going to start with Jin, because we never start with you.
So, we were doing spirit theme, supernatural theme, so I definitely went with one of my all-time favorites, Yu Yu Hakusho. I have never sat down and digested it all in one setting, so it could just be I seen most of the hype moments at the right time to enjoy it, and I've never read the manga, so I want to see what's been changed. So it's definitely something I'm really willing to go into with an open mind to see, what the differences are, and if I'm enjoyed as much as I remember.
Okay.
All right. We're going to go with Sek now.
Alright, I've got 2 of them. The first one, just because I did watch the anime and I had hopes that the manga was going to be better, but I never actually, until now, planned on reading it. No Exorcist, or The Blue Exorcist.
Oof.
Yeah.
No preconceptions. I'm sorry.
That's the first one. My other one is actually Shaman King. And that's because whoever doesn't know, the anime is going to be doing their re-release this year. So, ironically, thanks to our man Justice many years ago, he told me about the differences between the manga and the anime. And the manga is so much better, so I gotta see it because I haven't seen it, so I gotta read it. You know, Shaman King.
To be shaman. Anyway.
Shaman King? No.
Alright, Justice, what series did you pick?
So I chose a series called Pandora Hearts.
Love it.
I know pretty much nothing about it. I know there's like... It's like a kind of Victorian-esque setting, but with a whole other, like, realm called the Abyss that people can be just kind of thrown into for doing shit. And maybe they're vampires.
I'm trying to remember.
Huh.
I watched Pandora Hearts. I haven't read it. That is a good one, though. I would like to read that.
Word. And I have a second series, and it's called Billy Bat.
Have you read it? Or is the name just that great?
It's just the name. It's just the name.
Like, the name sounds awesome. Short synopsis, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I didn't know anything about it. It was just that name just, like, really, like, came out of left field and really clonked me in the chin, so I wasn't ready.
Yeah, so Billy Bat is about this comic artist in America who's writing a series called Billy Bat, about, like, an anthropomorphic bat. But then he gets, like, he finds himself in this crazy conspiracy about, like, this character that Billy Bat's already been created, like, decades before he's writing it. But it ends up being, like, this, like, Billy Bat is real. And he gets into this weird, like, crazy supernatural conspiracy and shit. I have no idea. Yeah, that's about all I know about it.
That is really weird. Okay, that's interesting.
Sounds dope.
Alright, so I want everybody here at the panel and all of our listeners to know that one of my original picks was going to be Spirit Circle, but seeing as to how you've reacted to this author's writing already, I've chosen to change my mind.
Oh, you could have kept
You
it.
know what?
I'd give him.
Nah, I agree with him. Nah, I agree with him, man. Nah, just because I don't want to like hurt another one of his, or I don't want to go off on another one of his stories.
I need a break before I take that abuse again. All right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't. Let him get up. Let him get up. Like,
it's very similar.
You could definitely tell they were made by the same mangaka.
Yeah. So let's give it a breather.
Yeah,
Let's just protect.
Yeah.
So, I got two long ones. All right. And I'm going out of your boy Shonen Jump, alright? I'm picking some classics on the board. And one of them is Bleach.
Oh, shit.
Bleach Final Arc is getting adapted into anime this year. I haven't read Bleach since it ended, and I didn't read all of it in one sitting ever. I'm pretty sure, like, I watched most of the anime and then read the Fullbringer and War things. So I want to sit down and read all of Bleach again if I get the chance. Series number 2 is actually going to be World Trigger.
Ooh, why did you say that?
Because I had read the first volume and thought it seemed generic, but everybody loves it, and I'm curious about the hype. I'm curious.
I had my pick, and then you said that. Now I don't know what to pick.
So you know what? I'm gonna be even more divisive since you said that. I'm gonna bring up another one then. I'm gonna bring up Dice.
Ah!
Why did you do such a thing?
Because I just love to see you squirm, my man. I seen you squirming already. I was like, oh, I gotta get in on that. I gotta get in on that one. And Dice is supernatural, so I'm sticking to it. Like, that's the between Yu Yu Hakusho and Dice. I'm throwing it in there. Like, I'm sorry, you messed up. You shouldn't have squirmed. You should have held out.
I'm squirming for real. Oh, this is not fair. Yeah, y'all gonna just have to come at me last with my vote. I need time to think.
I think you're already last, bud.
Good.
Oh wait, you meant. I'm just typing. I'm typing all the series names. What was your series that wasn't Billy Bat?
Oh, Pandora Hearts.
Oh man, that's something. That sounds like something.
Oh, it is something. That was the one I was gonna vote for, and then you just had to, and then he just had to. Oh,
well, thank you, Aqua Wolf God. He said we got some good picks up here.
Yes, we did. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Billy Bat, Pandora Hearts. What am I missing? I know I'm missing series. Where am I? I've got Dice, Yu Yu Hakusho, Bleach, World Trigger, Billy Bat, and Pandora Hearts.
I don't think you
Shaman
have
King.
either of sex
I
series.
was like, you're literally missing both of mine.
I'm sorry, dude. Shaman King and what was it?
I don't know, Exorcist or Blue Exorcist.
I'm typing Blue Exorcist. I'm not that weeby today.
Man, I don't know.
This is
I
tough.
don't know what to choose either, because it's not like we can choose our own, so I really don't know which one to choose.
Even
There's
if I
a lot
could
of stuff
choose
I've
my
never read.
own, even if I could choose, even if I could choose my own at this point, like, damn.
All right, audience. I want you to be part of the decision because remember, they can help. So,
Absolutely.
to any of our viewers who are feeling active in the chat, I just typed the name of every series that we're voting on. Since we don't have the poll option yet, since we're not affiliate, if you can just say the name of your, write the name of your series that you'd like us to start talking about in our next episode, it will not be in one sitting. I'm pretty sure almost all of these, except for Yu Yu Hakusho maybe, is like super long. So this would be...
It's long enough, though. Yu Yu Hakusho is still long enough. I don't think it's one sitting.
It's 175 chapters.
Oh, see, I thought it was 119. So yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho would be 2 episodes, and I think it's the shortest one on the list.
So yeah, it's still more than one.
Yeah, no disagreement. So if you would like to hear us talk about or want to read along with us, feel free to just pick one of the series we had. Otherwise, let's get the panelist votes.
Just save me for last, bro, because I still...
Alright, we're going to start with Justice.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark and just say Pandora Hearts. I've never read any of those, so I'll just go with that one. Just for sake of just having one to pick. Because I don't know. I don't know what else. There's too much on the table. So I'm going to just say Pandora Hearts. Just throw something out there.
I'm super torn.
Between what?
I mean, I'm torn between Bleach, because I love Bleach, and Shaman King, because I also really love Shaman King. But I'm like 10 chapters into World Trigger right now.
Like, as we speak.
So, like, it could just be very easy for me to choose that, because I'm already in it. I'm going to follow my gut and say Bleach.
Okay.
Cynic?
I'm looking.
Yeah, we've all had the same problem. That's pretty funny.
I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be Dice. I will not vote for it out of spite now.
You extra special, huh?
Oh, we gotta vote from the audience. We gotta vote for World Trigger.
World Trigger is very interesting, Aqua Wolf God.
World Trigger is freaking dope.
I picked World Trigger. You know what? I had another nominee that I was going to put instead of World Trigger, and now it's got, like, a vote and a quarter. I'm gonna go with Shaman King.
Really? Okay.
Yu Yu Hakusho was really close. I'm not gonna fuck around with you.
Oh,
I hear that.
This is rough. This is between
it's tiebreaker, bro. You gotta get in on this one, man.
I know it's between Dice, Pandora Hearts, and World Trigger.
Justice did vote for Bleach.
I did.
Yeah. I don't want to read Bleach. As many times, not because I don't like it, but because of the many conversations I've had with Justice and other people about powers and stuff in it, and seeing that end part. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that.
Well, you don't like sword stands?
No, you can't call them stands because they don't order. So we'll say sword personas.
That's better. Oh my god, this is really difficult.
I need to finish that run through Persona 5 that I'm doing right now. Thanks for
Dude,
reminding me about
are
that.
you crazy? How are you not done yet, man? They're already joking about the Persona 6, so you out here not finishing. Let me leave you alone.
This is my second playthrough, man. I'm on 230 hours.
I hear that. I'm just messing with you.
Man, while he's thinking, I started Strikers, and it is not easy.
Well, does that mean it's not good, or is it not easy in
It's not. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting my ass handed to me a lot, though.
Okay, that's fair. Because I was thinking about getting it, but I wasn't. I was sweating it a little bit because, like, those games, the what is it? Dynasty games, type games are pretty hit or miss for me.
Yeah,
they're pretty hit or miss.
Pandora Hearts. That's
Pandora Hearts.
Woo!
So that looks like what we're going with because it's 2 votes for that. So Pandora Hearts is what it seems like it's going to be.
We did it.
Still the audience, you know.
That's true.
We still have 4 audience members who are at least available if they're not trying to vote, but we do have 1 audience vote for World Trigger. So the audience could just like troll us all and just all vote for World Trigger, but I think
that sounds more like a hint, nudge more than a troll. I see you. I'm looking at you, buddy.
We got another one for Shaman King.
We got another one for Shaman King. Thank you, Ricky.
Oh, now it's tied again. Shaman King, and now we have Pandora Hearts. Oh no.
Well, I guess if it comes down to a tie, we can just take those 2 and vote again.
That's true.
Oh,
we
dude,
do that.
I actually love that. Alright, I'm going to give the chat I'm going to give the chat 60 seconds.
So while they are doing that 60 seconds, I want to bring up, and I don't know if I brought it up before, but it is something, since we've got more viewers and stuff, I do want to put more eyes out on. Webtoons has a story called Lookism, 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 and it's an interesting story to me. It's pretty long, so if you're looking for something to get invested in, I feel like it's good. It is a little bit of a slow burn, because this is a slice of life-ish. Because there are like fights and there are like, you know, there's a little bit more to it than the slice of life stuff, but it does have a slice of life narrative to it. So it starts off with an overweight, short character who's been bullied basically since he came out the womb, but his mother is doing everything to take care of him. A beat up weakling, you know, hates himself, hates the world type little bit situation, and, you know, grow from there. I won't say what happens to make that happen, because I feel like the twist is an interesting one, and I do feel like watching him grow as a person and seeing the people around him too, because I feel like that's one of the things that really makes the story good, is that there are other characters who are introduced who have importance to the story. Like they're definitely, you know, you see them grow, you see them help him grow, you see the difference between them, you know, doing bad things and good things, and how, you know, nuanced certain things can be. So without giving away too much, I do think Lookism is something to look into, no pun intended, of course. And again, that is a webtoon, and you can find it on Webtoons for free. So you don't have to pay for it, you don't have to look for it.
Man, listen, you need to... I understand you want to plug your story, alright? I really do. But...
Okay.
You're advertising for free right now.
That's true. That's true.
That was it. Like, I wasn't mad at you for talking. But it has been our 60 seconds.
That, bro. Just
and with that, us and the audience, well, I guess the audience each voted for one of them voted for World Trigger, so if we eliminate it, we're doing poll voting in this episode, folks. So, between Shaman King and Pandora Hearts.
Are we allowed to vote for our own at this point?
You know,
You could
I'ma
keep
say-
it interesting and say no.
I'm gonna say yes because we're forced between two options at this point.
Okay.
So I'm definitely gonna go with Pandora Hearts again. It's something I never read. I have some twinges of what happens in Shaman King, so I do want to try something I've never tried before. Not that Shaman King isn't a good story. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just I do kind of want to dip my toes in something I haven't read before.
Well, in case it isn't clear, I'm voting for Shaman King again for the same reason. Except I haven't read Pandora Hearts either. I just also really... I'd meant to read Shaman King for a long time, and I still haven't.
That's fair. Yeah.
Justice? Well, I think...
No. I'm super torn.
Yeah, me too.
I think I'm gonna
Y'all
go.
are killing.
I'm gonna go with Pandora Hearts
Okay.
for the same reason that you've gone with it.
Okay. That's cool.
I've seen a bunch of
So,
people on
again,
Twitter
it's down to
talking
you,
about it.
man. It's down to
No,
you,
it's not down to me. It's down to the audience, because my vote was for Shaman King.
bro. Nah, I knew it. I knew you were gonna do it to us. I knew you were gonna do it.
This is the second week in a row that we've had a tie.
Yeah, that's 2 ties in a row.
Literally, I think ironically it was down to the audience again. Like the audience was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do Biscuit Hammer." It was like, "Okay, well, that's what we're doing." So
No, we rolled
hopefully,
a
you
die.
guys can help us out again. I listen. I'm down for whatever. Either one we end up reading, I will probably either enjoy it or at least have an interesting conversation. Because as much as Biscuit Hammer wasn't my favorite, it was definitely something we had a good conversation on. So I enjoyed the conversation more than anything else.
Yeah, and both are so good that there will be able to have really good conversations regardless of which one we pick. Like,
So yeah,
I can
I'm ready.
definitely give the thumbs up for Pandora Hearts.
I'm trying really hard to tag the chat, and my keyboard was doing weird things.
Okay.
Like, I can't hit the enter key for some reason.
But I'm sweating because I want to see where we end up, but also at the same time, it doesn't really matter. Like, even if we had to flip a coin, one way or another is good.
Our boy in the chat, Mr. Ricky81, has voted for Shaman King.
Okay. So do we want to give another 60
You want
seconds
to
to make
give
sure?
them what? I was gonna say. What do you
Yeah,
want to do? Give
I
them-
just tagged Aqua Wolf God.
Aqua
if
God
he's...
also voted for Shaman King right before that.
Oh, well, there we have it then.
Okay, so we're doing Shaman.
We're doing
All
Shaman
right.
King. Justice and Jin, you both have read this series before. I don't know a good place to stop. If y'all...
No, actually, that would be incorrect. I have not read it. I only watched some of it. So
Oh,
it would
okay.
actually
I
be
didn't even
Justice.
watch, like, the Fox Kids dub of this show. Like, I was very not aware of it.
Yeah, I only watched bits and
the
pieces.
entire anime.
So yeah, like it's Justice who's probably gonna have to hook us up with that, where we should stop for the first one.
I'm looking into it as we speak.
While he's looking into that, man, like this year, I just going on a step aside for media has been bananas. Like we're coming up on the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that's been great.
Yo, be
We
quiet.
watched. Well, I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying it's been great. That's an objective, just thought. I'm not ruining anything. Same thing with WandaVision. That's been awesome. We're gonna get a little bit of a break in May, and then end up going into the Loki series in June on June 11th. And so it's just between video games, between manga, anime, everything's hitting the fan at once. I mean,
Notice how you only mentioned comics.
Well, hold on. I was about to mention me and you were watching the anime Way of the House Husband. I was going to mention that, but you don't like me. That's what it is. You don't like me enough to let me get that chance in.
It's just because you're not my dad.
I'm dead. Another popular series that I'm looking into is Invincible. That Amazon
watching
Prime
that
show
shit.
based off of a comic book. That's apparently super gory,
Very.
but also
Extreme.
really good.
Yeah.
Well,
Media in general, entertainment in general is popping off in the year of our Lord 2021.
Absolutely.
Yes. Speaking of entertainment, I'm going to take the time to plug some things.
Absolutely, man. Let's hear
it. I'm going to save the best plug for last, since he's talking all of that. It's really just two things. Well, I guess three. So story that I have been reading. Again, it's called. I've mentioned it before in a couple of podcasts back, but it's a story called Angel. You can find it on Web Novel. It is a romance. I'd call it like an intense action romance. Like that's the genre I would put it as, because it's got your fighting in there. It has, I won't say magic, but there is a power system in there. Based off of the elements. And a little weird fact about me, I happen to be like, when it comes to powers, I love powers based around the elements. Yeah, it's got 35 chapters out right now. It's still being updated, but it is really good. And anybody who likes romance or light action, I'm not promising you it's a battle shonen, because it's not. It's mostly romance.
And I peeped in on this story, and I can say it is also digestible. Like, I know some people, when it comes to reading manga and reading books and reading, light novels and stuff like that, one of the things that ends up, turning people off is, how, lore heavy, how everything's really, detailed and too much to really imagine. No, this is a little bit more digestible than that. So it is something that's easy to get into, whether you're a long-time reader or a short-time reader. So I would definitely suggest, at least taking a peek. But I think it's digestible enough for anybody to at least get into it and get started, see where they feel about it.
Definitely. The next plug, I just recently finished one of my music commissions. It was right after our episode 2 weeks ago. I'd like you guys to, if you have time, check out Mr. Vape 90. He does Twitch streams and YouTube streams and stuff. I just did a theme for him. So if you guys want to hear what that sounds like, be sure to check him out. Which brings us to the best but last plug.
For you.
I will be working on a theme for our manga panel here. I do not have a set timeline, but it is something that is in the works. So pretty soon you guys will be able to hear something different than our rip-off Persona 5 music.
Hey, the guy did a good job. I call it that behind screen.
I mean, yeah, but
as a joke between friends, the guy did a good job.
But it is also fairly accurate. Like, I ain't hating. It's just, but it is pretty accurate.
If there's a game to emulate music from,
amen.
That's one of them.
Persona is the game to emulate music from. No cap.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, it's as some of the better soundtracks. Not even just one. Most of them have pretty damn good soundtracks. So I can definitely agree with that.
So for the next reading, Shaman King has 300 chapters.
Okay.
Huh.
So if it has 300, we should just stop at the first 100, second 100, third 100, or are we? Is there particular arcs we want to hit?
Yeah, I guess.
I would say the first big stretch would be from 1 to 108. But then the next stretch after that is from 108 or 109 to 250 something. That's the whole middle arc. Is 100.
So that's basically chapters. The whole thing in 2 bites, basically.
So I think we could do it in either 2 to 4 readings, depending on how heavy we want these readings to be.
I think I want more than 100 chapters myself. I think 100 is a good limit. And when I say 100, if we do the first one that's 108, that's not a problem. But I mean, I don't want to do 150, 200, in one sitting. I feel 100 is digestible, especially because we have other things going on in our lives. So 100 should be, in my opinion, it's good for the 2-week process.
Yeah. So why don't we go to chapter 108 then for this first one?
Yeah, and then
Yes.
I'll figure out a good breaking point in that big middle chunk. And
Okay.
then the last half of that through the end.
Yeah, that works for us, I think.
Yeah, sounds good to me, man.
So first one is 108 is where we end the chapter, and then we'll figure out 109 to whatever after that. That sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Cool.
And that will be in 2 weeks. Let me look at the calendar so I know what date that is.
May
The
2nd,
2nd?
3rd.
Yep, May 2nd.
Yes, so Sunday, May 2nd is going to be our next episode. We'll be reading Shaman King through chapter 108.
So since our next one is going to be May 2nd, I do want to bring up, my birthday's May 4th. So it will be like my birthday cast that day. Just joking.
Yeah.
Just telling y'all now.
And the whole time I'm going to be saying, "May the 4th be with you."
Ah, of course you are. Of course you would do
I
that.
am. Of course I am.
We're just gonna all send you a volume of Shaman King.
Right?
I'm only having.
But yeah, no, I wanted to bring that up just because it's pretty interesting to do it right before our birthday. Like that's this is new to us, so and especially to me. So it is kind of interesting to hit those little weird milestones where it's like we've been doing this long enough that one of us can have a birthday on or right before the cast. So I just think that's interesting. So.
Yeah,
We'll
this
sing
is
a
going to be
birthday
good.
jingle.
I'm looking forward to this. I haven't read Shaman King ever, and I've only heard good things about it.
I've been thinking about rereading it all year.
Yeah,
Alright,
y'all are going to hear that from me a lot. Just be prepared for it. I'm going
I know.
Alright, Jen, do you have any plugs?
Just same as usual. Twitter at Papa Jen, spelled exactly how my username is. No space in between. It's just Papa Jen.
I'm going to put a link to our link tree in the chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
really
looking-
all I have to plug right now.
Going to the dashboard. Justice, do you have any plugs?
Also just the normal one. Shibuya the band. We have a single dropping sometime this upcoming week.
Oh,
Actually,
hell
maybe
yeah,
it's
bro.
exactly a week from today. It's a week from today.
We'll be checking that out.
It'll be on all them streaming platforms. I'm excited.
You should
We're
be.
excited for you. I can honestly say that. That's awesome.
Man, it grooves. I just also typed the name of that group. If you want to look them up, they're on all the music stuff.
Yeah.
Alright, guys, this has been a good episode. I'm glad we had a good civil discussion about a series we had very extreme seeming opinions on.
Boy, oh boy.
I told you it was going to be the most the most divisive of the ones we've had so far. Not that it was the most adversarial, but it was like we were divided pretty harshly on this one. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I want to thank all the friends I invited in Discord, especially from Final Phase Gaming and FSD, and all the people who came from any of the Facebook posts, like Just Some Black Manga Readers and TPR. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate especially Aqua Wolf God and Ricky81 for voting with us. It
Absolutely.
definitely helped because
Wow.
we probably would have had another die roll situation, and the last time that happened, we read a series based on a name, so and
Yeah.
half of us hated it.
Yeah, well, hate is a strong word.
It is. I definitely am memeing for extreme's sake. But thanks,
I want to thank people from Discord who drop by as well. I mean, I definitely appreciate every time one of the people, whether I know you directly or indirectly via these servers, I do appreciate every time somebody, drops in, gives us some feedback. We're trying to grow. We're trying to give you guys content that you enjoy. So if you do see me in some of these servers and you have something to say, you want to be like, hey, maybe you should bring this up, or have you tried this out? Let me know. I'm definitely trying to, bring that stuff to you. So thank you. And if you see me, let me know, man.
All right. And I would also like to take the opportunity to thank the Ivy League I do be posting in there every time we go live. But also to anyone who I have sent any personal links to come and check us out. If you're here, thank you for coming. We appreciate your support. And I guess one little tail thing about me, I'm working on my social media links. I'm more focused on getting the music at the moment, but along with the link tree that Cynic provided, eventually my stuff will be in there as well. So,
All right. Well, this has been the panel. Thanks again, everyone. Peace.